Hello everyone, I'm Silent Death, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Science Harder Campaign. We are picking up where we left off last episode with the base contract base, waiting for it to enter the moon's sphere of influence. And then we will set up a little bit of a capture burn. Which we should have enough fuel and stuff to do. And then what I think we're going to do, just to make sure that everyone what's the word I'm looking for? That everyone gets the proper amount of experience this time. We're going to make all the little Kerbals EVA, because if you look down where Bill and Grump is, there's not a little arrow that shows that there's more people in the crew. I don't know why. There should be, but there isn't. And if we look around, we may be able to see our debris crash into the moon. Maybe not. We have lost it. Ah well, let's go ahead and do this burn and get all these Kerbals out and get them their proper amount of experience. Now that we have shoved everyone outside and made sure they've all got some experience, we think it's time to head off to Minmus. So we'll set up a maneuver node for that, and then do a little bit of a burn, or a long bit of a burn. We got a bit lucky with the transfer there, getting an encounter right at our ascending node, putting us 13 days from a Minmus orbit. So it's on to other things. What we're going to do now is work on getting some stuff in orbit to transfer to Eve. We have a transfer window coming up in 50 days. And I want to go ahead and launch some of the unmanned stuff. We're going to send an unmanned probe for both Eve and Gilly. Then we'll send a group of satellites for Eve and Gilly, the dish satellites, and then short-range satellite network for just Eve, and possibly a polar satellite. So what I want to do is put all of the dish satellites together on one vessel, and then we'll have the Gilly lander on that vessel too. Let's start with building us some satellites. I guess we need to see what distance Eve is. See what kind of satellite we need. Alright, it looks like Gilly peaks at something like 45-ish. I think we have a 50-kilometer. We might want to go a little bit longer than that, because I don't know, that might be a little bit more. Can't really tell. Can I find out more this way? Eve, area mass, escape velocity, SOI. Doesn't tell me. It's alpha axis. Alright. We'll go with something, I think the 90 million meter ones. Sounds like a good idea. Unfortunately, these fixed satellites are the only thing that we have that's in that range. Everything else is either much longer or shorter. This is 50 million meters. And that sounds pushing it. I want a little bit more buffer than that. So I guess we'll be using these. How much electrical charge do you use? Is that the same amount of electrical charge? Okay. That works for me. Now then, we'll want some SAS. We shall want some RCS too. Might put that on later. See, what do we have in terms of RCS tanks? Is this the only type we have? Okay, you'll do then. Actually, what we could do instead is, if I can find it, use those universal storage thingamadoopers. Gotta be around here somewhere. Camera, docking thingamadooper. Go ahead and grab some panels while we're here. Don't need any life support. Okay, there is a science bay, a food bag, a fuel tank, and a monoprop tank. Waste tank, gray water. Ah, here's what we wanted. Okay, so we can go with either the hex core or the quad core. Start with the quad core and see if that's enough. We'll give you 2 of these for batteries. Place the batteries and then we'll just copy that. You are fuel, your monoprop. Can I do mirror symmetry? Would that work on this? Nope. And then I'll copy this. Let's go ahead and open the bay doors. You fit in here? That's a little bit big. Let's turn off the snapping. And we'll have to use the tiny ones. There we go. Then we will close the doors. Alright, so that gives you some power, some monoprop, radial symmetry. Okay, that's not working. That's not working either. No. How can we do that? We can put them up here. I'm not sure if that will work. They might get in the way of that other stuff. I could do it manually, but I don't want to do that. Wish there was a way to get the symmetry done. If I snap them? Nope. Alright, I guess I'll do this manually. Okay, here's what we got so far. We switched to just using the RCS tank because it's hard to attach things onto the universal storage bay thingamadoopers. Then we have 4 solar panels down here with the 4 RCS thrusters, which should be switched around. Not sure if that's going to block the RCS thrust or not. Definitely block these unless we phase retrograde. that's about as close to the center of mass as I can get. Put these down here. And they should be able to extend without being in the way. Yeah, I think that'll work. Let's rotate them to be sure. Yes, that will in fact work. Okay. Now then, we have some more solar panels up here, which can extend out and get to more sun. We only have enough battery power for 2 minutes. That is not going to do it for me. So we're going to add some more batteries. Stick them right there. That gives us enough battery power for 9 minutes. I think we'll go with a little bit more. According to this, a ghillie is dark for 50 minutes. At 100 kilometers, we won't be going at 100 kilometers, but that's what it says. Then we'll just drop this down inside there. Same with you. Scoot you in a little bit. That looks better. Now we're going to need these are only the ones for ghillie because we need more satellites, I think, for the other place. Eve? How dark is Eve? Only 11 minutes. Okay, so I think we can handle 11 minutes. What I can't handle is enough satellites. Come on. I can't do that, okay. Give me that. Take this back. I want this too. Line these back up like they were. Like so. It's roughly how they were, I think. And we'll see. Put this down somewhere. Let's turn it over. Oh, we can't. What if we tried to put these here? Could I then get 6? It does up here I could. It'd be a little bit messy, but I could pull it off. Let's see if I can't make that work. Okay, here's what we're thinking of. Have 6 of these dishes like this. We move the RCS up top. We just need to figure out how to do the solar panels. And if we start these extended, and what if kind of do them out like this? That way they won't hit things on top. I don't think if we do another set of these. And then we rotate this a little bit. That way we can stack all of them up on top of each other. Though launching this is going to be a little bit difficult since we don't have fairings. Let's save this as ActiveStruts. And go see if we can afford to have fairings. Okay, it is 45 science, and this gives us 1.25 meter payload fairings, which should work since we're using probe size stuff. Purchase all those. The next M1 is 75, which is a little bit too expensive for us. It's actually way too expensive. We're saving up for other things. There's a different satellite, but it's pretty much the same. Might look a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and purchase that. Alright, let's go continue on our building spree. Okay, the other satellite dish is not showing up. I don't know why. But it's not. Let's check this out though. That does look promising. So I think we'll go with the egg-shaped ones. Yeah, that'll work quite nicely. Just take you out and... Okay, I'm going to stack 3 of these and 3 of these and then see how many parts we are. We still only have the 255 part limit for this building. Well, we're at 226 parts with the fairings, with no lander and no polar satellite. So let's see what it takes to get this into orbit. No, it might be a good idea just to go ahead and start with the larger tanks to save on parts and stuff. Okay, where's our Delta V? We need, we'll go say 5,000 Delta V. Roundabouts to do what we need to do. Let's go with some couplers. I think we're going to need a interplanetary stage here. Set up, move all tanks, and okay, next tank set up. Where's the tank options? I've done that one wrong. Move all tanks, and we still don't have it. Oh, because we don't have an engine attached. There we go. So that gives us 1,300 Delta V. At a very, very low thrust to weight ratio, which is not good. try something like this. Pay much less for much less. We want the whole interplanetary thing to be a single stage, if we can. Doesn't look like that's going to work well for us. Not unless we make it one of these. Bet if we did something very, very small like this. So that's 800. $155. Still don't have any 2.5 meter decouplers. Yeah, don't go like that. That puts us up to 3,200. So we need more to get off the ground. That is what you're telling me. Go for 6 of these and some. Yeah, we also need a good amount of thrust to weight. There they are. That gives us thrust to weight, but not enough. Okay, let me fiddle with this a little bit more. Looks like we're going to have to do something with asparaguses. Alright, we have 356 parts. And our thrust to weight gets a little bit piddly as we advance in altitude and stages before we even get out of the atmosphere. We're below 1, which is of course not good. But I've set this to pump out first, so hopefully we can use these little guys, the asparagus stages, to help increase our thrust to weight. And I'm using the LVT30s instead of the swivel engines. Again, hoping that that will help with our thrust to weight issues. Let's see if this works. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off. We've of course had to launch this from the runway due to not having the VAB upgraded enough, which means there's not going to be a spaceplane launch for this launch window. We were just going to launch another Pelican anyway, and there's no pilots to go up to the moon base anytime soon, so that's not a huge deal. We're kind of having to be quite a bit careful with the gravity turn for this. We started out with a fairly high thrust to weight ratio for the big giant fairing we have on top. It causes a lot of drag, and it could easily cause us to flip out. So we're doing a very, very, very gentle gravity turn. We also have to worry about our thrust to weight issues, since it drops down to, according to Kerbal Engineer, less than 1 once we use up the smaller asparagus stages. Of course, that's with the second 2.5 meter of fuel tank full, which it shouldn't be. so we may be a little bit above 1. Should still be able to hold out. We also can't really afford to screw up with the gravity turn due to delta V issues. We have just barely enough to do what we need to do, maybe. A little bit unsure on how much fuel we're going to need at Eve. Some fairings. Looks really nice. They're actually pretty heavy. If you look at how much our thrust to weight went up when we dropped those. And apparently we can't time more. But on Eve, we need hundreds of delta V. Since we have to deploy satellites to both Gilly and Eve, and we have the Eve satellites at the front, I was planning on dropping down using the air brake to get the Eve satellites there and then accelerating out to Gilly, but I don't think I have enough delta V to do that. We do have a couple hundred delta V in the RCS tanks, but still I'm not sure that's going to be enough. We're probably going to have to make some changes to that plan once we get off to Eve, but that's something for a distant episode. We've made it into a 100-kilometer orbit, ready to transfer off to Eve. We have enough delta V to make it to Eve. I'm not sure if we have enough delta V to properly position the satellites themselves. It's going to come down to how much delta V we have in our RCS tanks. And it's going to be a little bit iffy. Something to worry about in the future. Because we're just going to hope for the best right now. And we'll send this off to Eve. We didn't get the lander put on, and we still have the other satellites to do. I don't think we're going to get to those this episode, because we need to deal with our Dres probes. Let's go to the scripting. We have 3 new scripts to look at today. We have the GUI script, the main script, and the simple bootstrap script. We're going to start with the GUI script. It has an array or list. The first element in the list is the status, and then there's status number 2. This is basically like what could we say? Like orbiting status, and this would be like executing a maneuver node status. And then we have 3 sets of data labels and data values. The data labels are printed on the left-hand column, while data values are printed on the right-hand column. And right here is where the data values are processed. They get updated every 5 seconds, or every 1 second if fast update is enabled. It's off by default. And to update them, we just come down here, we overwrite the existing data with spaces, and then we rewrite the data again. We're just printing out those things. And we also have the update GUI, which we can call manually. This is basically the box, the labels, and well, everything else. Just when we change a label or something, or status, we need to do this. We can update just status number 2 by calling this function, so we don't have to redraw everything, as this slows things down a little bit. Unfortunately, we cannot get the length of a string, otherwise it would be a little bit neater, but what I have now kind of works. And this will make more sense when you see it in the game here in a moment. The main address script relies on this little function down here to do most of the heavy lifting. Update boot updates the boot file in the computer part. So we have a parameter go to, which is what this is, the rest of the program is using. Then it switches to 1, so switches to the local drive, deletes the boot file from 1, then it writes switch to 0 to boot, and writes run main Dres, and whatever the argument is gets passed to main Dres, and then it just kind of ends that, so you end up with run main Dres, open parentheses, whatever number go to is, close parentheses, and period, writes that to boot, then it switches back to 0 so that we're on the archive, waits 1, and then kind of leaves the program. And this will allow us to switch back and forth from the vessel and have it pick up wherever it left off in the rest of this program, or if, for instance, it runs out of power. And we'll just scroll up here. So goto goes until goto is -1, which basically means we're finished. We're landed back on Kerbal if it's -1. It does one of many things. So 0 is just interplanetary coasting, basically what we're doing right now. And this just waits until we transition, or it'll check for a node. And this is something that I've added to the node utilities library. Find it. Vessel stats. Find thrust to weight. Find burn time. Execute burn. There we are. Check for node. We set an offset. Time seconds. Just whatever time seconds is. We create a temporary node at basically twice whatever time in-game is. We add that node. Then we see if the next node has an ETA that's about offset all the way. If it isn't, we know that there's some other node there, so we return true after we remove our temporary node. If the next node ETA is about offset, then it's just returning the ETA of the temporary node. So we remove the temporary node and return false, and then just a default return here. That's just simply checking to see if there's a node in the future. Back to main Dres. If there's a node, we wait 5 minutes. This gives me time to fiddle around with stuff. And you can see here we're setting the GUI stuff. So status number 2 gets maneuver node detected. Then data label number 1 gets waiting to execute node. And data value number 1 gets GUI element, or basically it's time till minus time clock, and time till is time of plus 300, or 5 minutes. Then we set the fast update to true, so it starts updating the data value every second, and we wait for 5 minutes. And then we recheck. If there's still a node there, then we'll execute the node, meaning we go to here. And it updates the boot drive. It says go to 1. It unlocks the tuning because we're pointing at the sun right now. Then interplanetary maneuver, updating the vessel stats. Does that. And then the rest of the stuff gets updated in execute burn file. Moving on. After we execute interplanetary burn, it goes back up to interplanetary coasting, which is this area. The next stage is we have an SOI change, which would be detected right here. If ship body equals address, it goes to 2. So right here, and we're basically waiting This will give me time to switch vessels after we change SOI, so I can switch to the other vessel before it advances to the capture part. Essentially, this is just a 5-minute wait part. Then, after the 5-minute wait, we actually perform the capture burn, which is just running the circularization script for 20 kilometers. You've already seen that repeatedly. Then another 5-minute wait to land. So we're orbiting, we grab some science, then we advance to the next stage, which is waiting. Then after waiting, we land, which is basically the entire land script that we've already looked at, copied into this. Then after landing, we wait to lift off. Another 5-minute wait. And then we actually lift off, which is the launch script that we looked at last episode. Exactly the same. Then we wait for a transfer burn. So this is exactly the same as the 0 thing, except for we're waiting 15 minutes instead of 5 minutes, because it probably takes us a little bit more clicking to get the node thing. And then it advances to doing the actual transfer burn, which is just running the execute burn script. Then we're going into planetary coasting, which is just like a 0, and interplanetary node, which is just like number 1. And 12 would be around here. We've entered Carbon's sphere of influence, which means we should have local control, so I don't know if I'm going to write a script for that or not. It should just basically be deploy the parachutes when we get low enough. That's pretty much that entire script. Hold surface, prograde, and deploy the chutes when we get low enough. I can do that off camera if I decide to do it, instead of just flying it manually. Okay, let's pop over to this, Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is just initializing the boot file, switching to 1, writing switch to 0, run main Dres 0. So initializing the main Dres log, then it reboots the thing, so everything can get nice and started. So this will be what we run first, and then the main Dres program will be in control of our vessel until it's back lifting off and transferred out of Dres's sphere of influence. Okay, so run Bootstrap log written, should reboot now. There we go. Okay, a maneuver node has been detected. It is interplanetary. We are waiting to execute the node for 4 minutes and change, and it's pointing itself towards sun position, because that's what it does. So you can see here, this is a data label, and this would be the data value. And this is status number 2 here, maneuver node detected. Status number 1 is interplanetary. And the other 2 data labels and data values are just blank, or there's colons right here. So it's updating every second because fast update is on. If we warp, which is why we're using the time thing instead of a wait thing, this should update in a moment. And there it goes. So now it is doing something. There shouldn't have been a clear screen there. Okay, something's broken. Figures that something would be broken, but we have the reboot thing, or the boot script, just in case I made an error. So I'll go fix that, and then we should execute this node. Or we can wait until we execute the node. We can bootstrap the other thing in seconds. Why? I didn't click that, did I? Must have. There we go, that's better. We have a whole day to fix this. So I will be back when it is time to execute this node. Okay, I fixed that it was just an extra period where there shouldn't have been one. It is now performing the maneuver. We are facing the sun, waiting to the burn. So it should switch over in a few seconds, which it just apparently did. Slowly going, facing its node. Waiting until the time to burn. That's actually time to node and not time to burn. But whatever. And there should typo there. That should be magnitude. Something is pretty laggy. Might be that. I bet it is. Down to 2 frames a second. But I'll let it finish this node, and then we'll fix that little tiny typo, and we will go over to, I guess the Dunacom ads need to be done, but we need to reboot this because this just came out of range about 5 minutes before the node happened. So it's a good thing we got that done. Okay, I'm going to fast forward this. With one of our Dres probes bootstrapped, we're now at the Duna Short Range Satellite Pack. We need to do a tiny bit burn to move our periapsis over so that we're getting a little in the atmosphere. It's like we'll get an Ike too. Might be interesting. Tiny bit of a burn, only 3.8 seconds for half of it, and I've already throttled down the engines to 5.5%. A little bit faster. Got to be pretty freaking accurate on this. Go now. A wobbly lid. $32, $20, $19. Okay, that's as low as we're going to go. We don't know how good the heat shield is on this, and that is just as low as we're going to go. Now then, we'll go over and bootstrap the other Dres probe. I've had to make a couple of changes to our code. Basically, the RemoteTech integration has to be toggled on and off using... We can't actually do that. Oh. It's set config:RT to true to turn it on, set it defaults to turn it off. We have to have it on when we want to maneuver the ship, and we have to have it off so that we can access the archives. So we're basically flopping that on and off over the course of the program. Unfortunately, it's still causing some problems as it doesn't seem to update immediately. And even with the RT off, they'll sometimes get a problem where it says that it can't access something another. But let's just fast forward a little bit until we get to our burn, or close to it. How long of a burn is this? Okay, just 18.5 seconds. So when that hits 48 seconds, it should cancel the fast forward. And then turning towards the maneuver. And hopefully holding position. Couple more seconds. I switched this to slow update so it doesn't kill the frame rate quite so much. It's still a bit heavy, but that's because we have this set up to 2000. The GUI code, the way it's doing it, requires a lot of runs since it's running kind of on a separate thread using when statements is not the most efficient way. And also burning is way off center. There needs to be some string function so that I can center that more easily. Alright, I will be back when we're finished burning. Okay, there's a problem with that. See, let's attach a node first. There's no node. Okay, well that's a different type of problem. Alright, where were we? We were doing something. Let's check when we're going to have our cross. Okay, here we are. A year in 55. Really, those are 100 days apart, even though they launched basically at the same time. Alrighty then. That's a pretty big gap. We shouldn't have any trouble with them stepping on each other. It also looks like we're going to have a Moho window before that happens. Looks like our Duna stuff is already going to be there. Time. And we might even get to Eve before that. Only 14 days until Duna satellites get there, so that'll probably happen next episode maybe. Once we switch back to this, after re-offloading it, it'll fix this little problem. Hopefully that doesn't happen like in the middle of a script, or that would be bad. I think we're going to end this episode here. So like if you like, subscribe if you're not, leave a comment if you have anything to say. I do read all the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.